Hello, First Lutheran Panthers, and anyone else who has decided to tune in to our summer art lessons. I am so excited about this project. I was messing around earlier in the summer with pine cones because, as you know, we have tons of these things out in the front of the schoolyard. And I got to breaking them apart, and then I did some research and found out, okay, I was having them close up, and then when it warmed up, they would open up, and that's, of course, the way that God made them to do. So when they open up, they release their seeds and then proliferate and make more pine trees. And I found out that if you open them slowly in a warm oven and then bake them for 2 hours at 250 degrees, then they will stay open. So all the pine cones that you have in your kit that you got from school, all of those have been baked. And also baking it makes it easier to pull the petals off of it. So this is a couple of ones that I did. I think this was the first one that I did. And then I did this one, and oh, I just went crazy. And I made this one here, which it's kind of hard to see in the video. But I'm going to tell you about this kind of paint. I found something really, really cool. And then I made the even bigger one. This one here, I'm gonna have to run it sideways. And I'm gonna give this one to my son and daughter, Dawn and Danica, because they really like that one. And I'm probably gonna make some more. And across the room, I've got one made for, with Christmas. It's a poinsettia. I'm gonna get it and show it to you. This is just so cool. We may even do this again when school starts. So I took this old piece of a tree that was cut down in the schoolyard, and Mr. Davis made me all these slices. You have a small one, tree piece in your kit, but that's for a different project, so don't get it confused. Anyway, so I kind of made little poinsettias out of these and put a little Christmassy ribbon on it, and it's just fun. I just love this. I'm gonna make more of them. Okay, let me show you how we do it. The first step is to paint your background. You got in your kit a board like this, and there's a not painted side and a painted side. I put gesso on this so that you can put your craft paints on here. For this project, you'll need whatever craft paints you have. And heavens to Betsy, I've got tons. But I think since I've done purple and pink and white and green and yellow, I think I'm going to make one that is all warm colors. So I'm going to get out find my red here. Oh, there it is. So I'm going to use these colors and maybe use a little bit of white. We can learn something about white paint and how it acts as an opaquer. So, step number one, we're going to paint our background. So I'm going to set these two guys aside and get my board here. And you can just use any paintbrush you want. Oh, let me get this one back. I like this background. Notice that it's kind of mottled. Well, let me get the one that's not shiny. Well, they're both shiny. It's kind of mottled. See, I started dark and went light and added some pink and added some white to it. We want kind of this is called mottled, M-O-T-T-L-E-D, mottled background. Or you can do stripes, or you could just do a little pointillistic thing. How you do your background is totally up to you. So let me load my paint into you see these things that we use in the classroom. It's wonderful. These little trays that you get when you get an instant dinner. And then with this craft paint, just let it dry. And then the next time you want to use it, all that paint in there's dry and it doesn't hurt a thing. So just put more paint on top of it. And I can store these upside down so it's not so hard to get. And any craft paint will work for this project. I'm going to get a little bit of white. Okay. Notice, I want to show you something real quick. Don't do this, just watch. When you have dark colors, they tend to be very transparent. Can you see the white kind of showing through there? But look what happens when I add just a tiny bit of white to my red. And it's not enough to turn it pink, but it is enough that it has completely made that red paint opaque so that we don't have any of the background showing through. So white is your opaquer for any of these darker colors that are more translucent. Okay, I'm going to start at the bottom here and just kind of slop it on there. Some orange. I want to make it a little bit darker at the bottom and get lighter as it goes to the top. A little value change, just for variety. And remember, variety is one of our elements of art. Get this. You don't want to blend it too much if you're doing this model technique. As we work, I may have to get more paint out. Any craft paint you get a hold of will work for most of these projects. Michaels I think it's Michaels, has a brand called Craft Smart, and sometimes, let me see if I have any of that. Sometimes you can get these paint thingies for 50 cents a piece. Aha, Craft Smart. I love this color. It's got enough white in it to be opaque. But you can get these for 50 cents a piece at Michaels. Love it, love it, love it. Some of the fine art paint that I use, I have recently learned, which is, the acrylic, Liquitex heavy body acrylic paint that I use for my big paintings. I found out that recently that it's getting hard to get a hold of because it's all made in the United States, and a lot of the factories that make that are in New York. And you know what the terrible time New York has been having with this coronavirus. Notice that as I'm moving up my picture plane here, I'm not using much red anymore. I'm sticking pretty much to the orange and the yellow. And pretty soon I'll just be using the yellow because I want it to go from dark to light. That helps the visual weight of your project, because you always want to think about balance and composition. You always want your project to visually be heavier toward the bottom. It looks more stable that way. Okay, I think about to switch over to just the yellow because I've got plenty of orange left in my brush. Grab a little bit of white and throw it in there. Just however you want to paint yours. Don't forget that you can always pause these videos and then get caught up. I'm doing this pretty fast because I've done a bunch of them. But you might want to take a little bit more time. Paint your background, get it however you want. And I'm going to take a hairdryer to mine and then start working on on taking apart the pine cones. So I'm going to pause the video right now and use the hairdryer, and you can do the same if you wish. Okay, that is all pretty well dry. And while this finishing drying, and remember to get your brush nice and washed. I keep water at the ready over here. Now I'll completely clean this brush at the end of the day before I put things up for the night. Remember, you don't ever want to leave your brush in the water because it makes your brush have a bad hair day. So I'm going to get most of the water out and lay it right there. I'm finished with that for now. Okay, I'm going to set this aside. It's still a little bit wet, but it can finish drying while we're working with our pine cones. I think I gave each of you 3 or 4 different pine cones. I got a couple here. And you might want to, as you're breaking these, you might want to have your parents help you with it or get a pair of gloves, because the bottoms of these are kind of stickery. But I've discovered that if you just pull down on them, because the sticker's on the bottom of it, if you just pull down on them and just be real careful, sometimes you have to twist it, just pull them off. And make sure you take the time and pull them off one at a time, because you want them to be, you don't want them to be all crushed up. And pull these off. Look at the bottom of that. Doesn't that look like a flower? I'll show you what I do with that too. Pull all of these guys off. And putting them in the oven at 250 for, what did I tell you, 2 hours? That makes it nice and brittle. Keeps them from closing up, but it also makes them nice and brittle. So if you've got a friend or a parent that is handy, maybe you can call them over and they can help you pull these guys off, because I'm going to go ahead, and if you need to pause the video again, that is just fine. I'm going to go ahead and show you how we start gluing these dudes on. I have actually prepared to make lots of these projects, and I divided my petals into larger ones and then medium and small, just because when I'm making a larger flower, I want to use the larger petals here. And when I'm making a smaller flower, I like these little teeny weeny ones to put in the middle. Okay, go ahead and finish that up. Most of the ones at the bottom are going to be the larger ones. So I'm going to throw these in my large tray. And you could just leave yours laying on the table, or you could find some kind of a dish to put them in. It's totally up to you. Okay, where's my board? It's still a little bit wet, but I think we can work with it. Okay, now thinking about composition. You've heard me use that word in art class. It's one of the elements of art, how things are put together so we have a nice eye path. Okay, notice when the first one you look at is probably this nice big one. And your eye can kind of go around here and look at this and then go off to the others and then get pulled back down into it because of these dark colors we've got down here. I want to take a minute and tell you about this paint. This stuff is so stinking cool. You see the little teeny weeny microscopic pieces of glitter that are in there? This is called Dragonfly Glaze. I got this at Hobby Lobby, I think. It's not cheap like the Craft Smart paints are, but a little bit of this goes a long ways. I think for this whole thing I used maybe 3 brushes full for the whole thing. You put it on real thin. So that's cool. Okay. Now to make your in your kit you have sticks. Now you can go out in your front yard and get your own sticks if you want. I just threw some in there from my front yard because not everybody has trees. But boy, we've got plenty of sticks in our yard if you need any more. So get your sticks and lay them out, and I will show you how we do this. You'll need your hot melt glue gun, and you'll need to plan where you're going to put your flowers. So let's get a pencil here. And I'm kind of liking the layout I have for this one and the other small one that I did that's the size you guys are working on. This is your main focal point here, and then your eye travels down to these others. So there's lots of different ways we could do it. Just in the interest of simplicity, why don't we do something similar to this, and that way you can learn how I did these 3 different kinds of flower insides. You might have to have some help from Dad to get some of these pieces of your pine cone clipped off. I had have Mr. JD help me with that. Okay, I want a flower up here, so I'm just going to take my pencil and just put a circle there. That'll be completely covered up, just to give us an idea of where we want things. Maybe here, and then the third one down here somewhere. I don't know if you can actually see this since this is dark, but this just gives us a place to start. Okay, here's the fun part. Let me get my big petals. Well, this flower up here is kind of small, so I'm going to use my medium and small petals and put them here. Okay. You're going to take your petal, and the circle we made, you're going to take your glue, put a little bit of glue on the back of it, and then just lay it there. And then wait until the glue cools enough that it'll stay in place. And that's all there is to it, guys. It's just over and over putting these petals around that circle. This is going to be kind of a small little flower. Now that glue's kind of showing, but that won't, by the time we get finished, it won't show at all. Besides, hot melt glue you can paint. When we get ready to paint the flowers, just cover up anything you don't like. Okay, I've got 4. Now I'm going to add a 5th one. A lot of times when you look at something organic like a flower or something like that, you'll see an uneven number, not 2, 4, 6, or 8, but 3, 5, 7, 9 structure on here, and that way it looks a little bit more organic. Okay, to move in, I'm going to find some smaller petals. Yeah, there's one. That's cool. Okay, and I'm going to be moving in further because this is a tiny little flower. So I'll put some glue on the back of my petal here and put it between the other 2 petals like that. think I'm just gonna have room for 3 petals on the inside. There we go. 3 there. Now I want to put some underneath going out. And if part of your background shows, don't worry about it. Whoopsie, I got a little bonus here from another project. Slide this guy right under here. And then I'm going in between the first row of petals I put on here. And I think it looks kind of cool if they stick out over the edge a little bit. It just kind of helps the artwork take on a life of its own and just kind of continue right off the canvas. And don't worry about your petals being perfect or not being cracked or something, because remember, these are organic things that we're making here. And it's not going to look all perfect and square. Okay, that flower is basically finished. All we have left is the inside. And there's lots of different ways you can do that. This one I'm just going to leave like that, and then we'll paint the yellow center. Okay, flower number 1 is finished. I'm going to get my larger petals and do flower number 2. And instead of starting on the circle, I'm going to come out a ways for my first row. Out about, hold that far right there. Don't be too worried about making a perfect circle. You want it to be basically circular. And you'll need quite a bit of hot melt glue for this project. In fact, I think I've already gone through about 3/4 of a glue stick already. Thankfully, that's relatively inexpensive too. This one's got a point on it. I'm going to do one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I put a 7th one on here, except I got too close to my circle. Thankfully, my glue is still soft. There we go. 7 to start with, a little space in there, but that doesn't hurt a thing. Okay, next row, going in, it's going to go on top of it. Just like that. Isn't this cool? It's really pretty easy to do. It takes a lot of time, but that's fine. Time is something we've got right now. Yeah, didn't have enough room to put one there, but I will fill that hole in later. See if I can find one that's kind of small back in my small tray. Put here. And another small one from my small tray. The pine cones that are up here at the top are the smallest ones. So you may need to, if you didn't pull all the petals off of your pine cone, you may need to go back and do that. Okay, I've turned all of these petals upside down so that the pokey part's on the bottom. And we're going to do it the other way for one of this last flower to have some variety. I think I need one more right there. Oh, there's a skinny one. This will do just fine. That one there. Awesome. Okay, now we're going to do our outside row. And if your flowers are kind of close to one another and you're going to run into your other flower, that is just fine. It gives it kind of an overlap look, and I'll show you how we take care of that. Remember, don't worry about if part of your background shows through there, because we're going to paint the whole thing. We're going to paint the flowers. It doesn't look like I'm going to run into that one, but I will have an overlap going on with this last one. Slide it under there. Make sure you use a pretty goodly amount of glue. The one I made for Danica and Dawn, these things are kind of delicate, so when you get done, be real careful with them. The one I made for them, I broke it. It was easy to fix. I just knocked one of the sticks off of it. Well, here we go. This is what I like. See, isn't that cool, the way that hangs off the edge like that? It's just about time to put another glue stick in. And a couple of more, and I think I'm going to be done with this outer layer. Wherever you kind of see a hole, get up in there. Take that little piece off. It's not going to cooperate, so I'm going to break that off. Stick another little spot of glue on it and go again. There we go. Got it. What do you think? Maybe a couple up there. We want to keep it basically round. Let me see what that's going to look like. Nah. Maybe I'll have one more over here. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm done. Maybe let's get a smaller one. Aha, this one's perfect. Ta-da, that's gonna be perfect. A lot of it's just trial and error. Just find what you like and stick it in there. Maybe one more up here. I might kind of break the corners of it off with my fingers. Oh, it's almost out of glue. Okay, the third flower is going to be the biggest of the three, and I need to reload my gun here. A little trick with hot melt glue guns. Take your tip, barely melt the new stick going in, just on the inside of it, and then stick it in real fast, and it'll stick. It won't fall out. Okay, extra little goobers off of there. Before we paint this, we'll have to go through and get all the spider webs off. Hot melt glue, you know how it does that. Okay, back to my big tray. Oh, this is it. Okay, this one, I'm going to start out about here with my big petals. That one's not big enough. This is going to be my biggest flower of all. And it is going to overlap this one here, or underlap it, however it turns out. I'm kind of just laying these out so you can see how I'm kind of figuring out where it's going to lay. Except this one, I said, we're going to turn the petals over, and there's something real fun we can do with the paint. Do you see this little shape right here? We can do something fun with that. Yeah, I'm going to pause the video here so it doesn't get too awfully long, and I'm going to glue down, using the same process, I'm going to glue down this flower, and then I'll show you how we're going to do the centers of the flower. Okay guys, before we actually start painting on this, I want to show you how I dealt with the overlap. So I've got a couple of, both of these I've kind of broken off so I can slide them in there. We want to have this third flower overlapping the second flower. So you're just going to stick the bottom of this wherever it's going to stick to. Just kind of over the top of that, and then when we paint it, that'll show more. And it looks like I need one more out here to make it basically round. If it's not perfectly round, don't worry about it. Just so it's basically round. Okay, now, oh, I got that sitting in there. I want to tell you about that. Pull off all of your little spider webs. Thankfully, they're not real spider webs. I don't like spiders. That one needs another shot of glue. You're going to stick this time, right? So you got to talk to your art projects. Make them behave. All right. Now, for the insides of the flowers, a couple of different things. This that you see right here is the stalk of the pine cone. And you can get that off by taking a larger pair, you may have to have Dad help you, a pair of diagonal cutters, and then just gnaw your way around. Let me move this out of the way. Gnaw your way around to cut off just a chunk of this, and it makes a dandy little inside to the flower, like that. And I think on this one here that I made for Danica, I didn't paint. I'll put a little bit of yellow around the edges, but I didn't really paint it because it already looks like the inside of a flower. And for another thing you can do is you can take the same pair of diagonal cutters and pull off all the petals getting to the top, and you can use the very top of this for the inside of your flower. So I don't want to pull off too many. I just want like basically one row. The way these things, God made these things is just fascinating. Older students, you've heard me talk about the Fibonacci sequence. Well, this is a perfect example. I don't want to go into that right now, but this is a perfect example of the Fibonacci sequence. Okay, here's your diagonal cutters, and a bigger pair works better, but I don't know what I did with them. Just kind of gnawed off there, and look, you got the inside of a flower, if you decide you want to do that. So putting that all aside, bring this back, and I think I'll use that for this one here, and then use this for here, and then we'll paint the inside of that flower. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and glue this down into place. There's the inside of that one. This would kind of, the inside kind of sticks out, which is kind of cool. As you put this in, you might want to nest it down in there the best you can, and then kind of hold it for a couple of seconds until that glue cools. And then if it's still, after the glue's cool, if it's still wobbly, just go ahead and slop some more glue down here, because like I said, we're going to paint the whole thing, and you won't be able to see the glue. It'll just look like part of the flower when we get done. More spider webs. Okay, I think we about got that. The inside of this flower we're just going to paint, so I'm going to show you about that. Okay, back to my palette. Since we used warm colors on the background, I'm thinking it might be fun to put cool colors for our flowers. So I'm going to set that palette aside and get out another one that is basically dried out. That's got some blues in it from something I did this morning. Okay, but wait, there's more. There's more of these things stuck back here. Okay, this one has no wet paint. Okay, thinking about colors. Any colors you want, but you're going to want to have basically 3 different values of the same color, or 3 different colors that are in the same color family. This is all one color family, and then this one here I did with the green background and then made 3 different colors of flowers. So there's lots of, just whatever you want to do on the flowers. It is up to you. I believe that I'm going to pick some cool colors. So we'll want some blue, plain ultramarine blue, my favorite blue for painting. And oh, here's another blue. This is cool. I haven't, this one's new. Oh, that's Robin's Egg Blue. That's cool. I'm going to show you about that too. Robin's Egg Blue. It has a tiny baby bit of glitter in it. It's cool. And I'll tell you, if I had $1 million, I'd probably spend it all on paint. You always want white as your, do you remember the word? Your opaquer. And also it helps with the blending. And maybe just if I can find, I've got here a little bit of, I've got some lavender here. Ah, there it is. Okay, lavender is another cool color that you may want to put in with your flowers. Come on out of there. If that happens, I just get aggressive and do it this way. There we go. More lavender than I'll need. Okay, my paintbrush. Plain old paintbrush, just the one out of your watercolor kit. Let's think about this now. The biggest flower is here, and middle, and then small. And since this one is the tallest, maybe we want it to be our focal point, or the focus of our attention. So I think I'm going to paint that one mainly dark blue and little bits of the light blue. So I'm kind of double loading my brush. And this is a little bit tricky because you don't want to get any of the paint on your background, except for in the middle of the flower. So you'll need to paint real carefully. I kind of slopped it over on this flower, but that doesn't matter, I can paint over it. But we don't want to have to repaint our background. And you know how I like to have mottled colors, because they just look more natural than just flat colors. So this is a little bit time consuming, but it's fun. I love painting. If you see any of the background showing through, then go ahead and put some of this, except this spot right here, that's supposed to show because that's a part, there's a little space between the petals. You know how we always like to have interesting areas of negative space. Go ahead and paint this, and you can paint your middle flower any color you want. The brighter of your colors are the most attention getting. Got a little too much white there. I can fix that. Okay, I'm going to have to rotate my canvas here a little bit so I can get the rest of this. This is so fun. I've had more time because school was closed, which breaks my heart, but I've had more time in the spring to forward. I actually developed this project before school was out. And I liked it so much that I decided that we're going to do it for summer. And if you guys, when we come back in the fall, if you really like this and want to do maybe a smaller version to make a Christmas gift or something, we can probably figure that out. It'll probably take 3 or 4 class sessions to get this done because of all the different processes and layers. Okay, up under here, I don't know if you can see it or not in the video, part of my background is showing, but I want that to be part of the flower. So I'm just kind of slopping some paint on top of that hot milk blue, and it's just going to blend right in. Grab a little white every now and then for some variety. Notice I'm not brushing, I'm kind of blopping it on here, for lack of a better term, just so we have some variety in color. Too much white. It's easy to get too much white, but that's easy to fix too. In the center, oh look here, I've knocked that off. Oh, that's easy to fix. I'm going to lay my brush down. This whole set fell off. I bumped it pretty hard. Yeah. Stuff like this happens during one of these videos. It's actually a good thing, because then if it happens to you, you know what to do about it. Okay, get back in there and you stay put this time. Okay, finish up my blue. And under the edge of my big one there. And I have not painted. I'm sliding my brush way down to get that back. I see some orange background under there. Get that all covered up so that it all looks like the flower. Slide it up under there. Okay, this part that is the center of the flower, I'm going to paint that lighter, and there's a couple of reasons for that. The main reason is for contrast. So I'm going to paint this a lighter blue, and that way it shows up more because it sticks up, but also having it a lighter color will separate it from the background a little bit, which the background being this part of the flower here. Okay, I'm going to have to pick this up and get the underneath parts of these. Now the middle of it there, I'm not putting much paint there because we're going to have mostly yellow on that. I stand it up like this and get these underneath parts. Turn it over, being real careful so you don't break yours like I broke mine. On this side here. I think I got most of it now. Got a little bit of down in there. I accidentally got paint on the top of it, but that won't hurt a thing. Okay, while it's still wet, I'm going to go ahead and get most of the blue out of my brush. And I've got some leftover yellow from our background here. Yeah, and yellow and maybe just a little bit of orange. Kind of mixing it together there on my brush, and just do that right on very center. Don't mix it, because you know what happens when you mix yellow and blue, you're going to get green. Just lay it right on top. Just blop it on there. Keep going back and getting more. There we go. That flower is essentially finished. I'm going to turn around this way. And let me see. I've got the blue, the light blue. Oh, wow. The light blue and the lavender might look nice together for this flower. Ooh, that's so cool. I'm going to have to pour out some more of the light blue, I think, before we're done. It's okay, I got that on the inside because that's going to be painted yellow for our inside. And if I find my brush, it's mixing it a little bit too much there, and I like the variety of color here. So just take your paper towel and wipe most of the paint out of your brush, and then you can go again. Purple and blue, two of my favorite colors together. Isn't that neat how we get this variety of colors here? Real careful not to get it on your background here around the edges. I grabbed a little bit of the dark blue too, just because I'm almost out of the light blue. It'll do the job. Almost done with this. Oops, I got some on my background here. I don't want that there. Just kind of wipe it off. And if nothing else, if it dries, you can just go back and stick a little bit of orange on top of it, or yellow or white. Because it is kind of hard to just paint these petals and not get the background too. Okay, the inside here, I'm going to blop it all in here with this same color, and then we're going to paint the center. Okay, get most of the blue out of my brush. Same thing we did earlier. Go back with the yellow. Let's don't use any orange though this time. Just get a big block of yellow. Just kind of slop it on there. Now as this dries, that will tone down just a little bit. That's one of the natures of acrylic paints, is they do tend to darken just a little bit as they dry. Now this big flower here, I've already decided that I'm going to get a darker color of purple, if I can find one. Here we go. A darker color of purple, and then blend it with the lavender and the white. We've got to get aggressive here. Some of this paint's pretty old. Some of it's been given to me. There we go. Got a big block coming out. There. That's all thick like that, but that's not going to hurt a thing. Mix a little water with that and it'll just be dandy. If you go to put water in a paint container, don't ever use tap water. I learned that the hard way. You'll want to use distilled water or your paint will spoil, just like food spoils. Okay, dark purple, light purple. I'm going to start with the inside. And I'm not going to paint this center thing at all. A little bit of white so that it does what? It opaques. Especially up under here, I want that to be the darkest purple. Covering up any chunks of background, my orange background that are showing there. You saw me grab a little bit of blue, didn't you? That blue will help make that purple even darker. Oh, that's cool. Very cool. Now we'll get lighter as we come out. Sometimes I just make stuff up as I go along when I'm painting or making a project. That spontaneity just adds a lot of fun to the project. Okay, now I'm going to start with my lighter purple. kind of blending it but not blending it, so it looks natural the way it goes from the darker to the lighter. And I did it again right there, but we can fix that when we're all done. Closer to the edge, I gotta be a little bit more careful. I think I'm gonna go back and put in a little bit more blue on the inside of there, so it winds up being a little bit darker. This is a little tricky. Gotta be kind of, this dark purple paint is kind of thick. That's a little hard to work with. Whatever colors of craft paint that you have, acrylic craft paint is one of the best inventions ever. Because back in the day, the artists, Vinci and those that followed him and those before him, they had to make their own paint. They couldn't run to Hobby Lobby and get something, or run to Michael's and get something like we can, or even Walmart. Some Walmarts have a pretty good selection of craft supplies and craft paints. I found some little tiny easels at Walmart the other day for $1 a piece. Needless to say, I bought several of them because they're stout enough that you could put one of these paintings on there. Okay, I'm just about to get this done. I'll show you something fun we're going to do. Remember, we turned the petals rough side up on this one. Just about got it. And now that you can see a color difference, you can see how overlapping the big flower, how it overlaps the medium-sized flower. We're getting that separation between the two. Here, it's hard enough to get paint on my blue flower. Okay, now we're going to take some of this light purple and some white and kind of sort of mix them, not too much. We like this, we like the streaks, we like the modelly look. And just go around on the tips, these little pointy tips that are sticking up. And just put a little bit there. It'll dry just a tiny bit darker than it shows here, but that'll help it blend too. Yeah, notice I'm not being too careful. Just kind of sticking it on there. So that each little tip of a petal here has its own little bit of very light lavender and white, and that makes it show up a little bit more too. We're almost done. Got to put sticks on here, and I forgot to get my sticks out, so I'll have to do that. Oh, and leaves. I got to show you how to make leaves. Okay, I'm going to get most of this lavender and white out of my brush and go back a little bit with my dark blue and the darker lavender. I think I need to make that a little bit darker up in there. Yeah, that's going to look better up underneath our center. Now there we go. Now we're cooking. Okay. And you see, I slopped over onto my background a little bit, but that's easy to fix if you still got this palette laying around. So we got white and a little bit of yellow there. Just kind of touch it up and nobody will ever know. Kind of put a big blob on there. There we go. By the time that dries down, you'll never see it. There was another spot. Oh, here it is. Over here. I think that's only places where I bumped my background. Okay, the next thing we are going to do is, let's see if I've got my sticks here. Now I'm going to have to pause the video and go find my sticks. Okay, I had to go out in the yard and find me some more sticks because I don't know what I did with them. Okay, this is the interesting part here. The way we've got this laid out, we're not gonna need much. I've got a lot more sticks than I really need, but I'm kinda digging this one. I'm not sure. Just take the sticks that you've got. Think about how they would be if you had 3 flowers in your hand. Maybe I can use this one here. So it would have a stick going from here to the underneath side of that one, and then maybe another one on this side over here. And that might do it for this layout. Okay, very cool. So I like this. So I'm going to figure out exactly how I want to lay that. Yeah, that makes sense, about like that. So I'm going to break a little bit of this off so it'll go up underneath my flower here, and then have this nice fork down here, which I think is cool. There we go. And break off this end, because I'll need to stick it under here. This part may be kind of tricky. Break off some more of this. I'm going to use my little diagonal cutters. There we go. See, that looks like that's a stem for that right there. Get my glue gun. A little on this end and a little on this end, and make it so. Get under there. Get under there. I'm gonna cut some more of this off. A little bit of trial and error here. Some more glue. Let's go again. Now I got it behaving. There. See how that just kind of comes down from that flower? And let's see, maybe this one could go, oh, that's perfect. Just stick this guy up there after I trim him off a little bit. You can use just regular scissors out of your kit to cut this stuff. It won't hurt him a bit. Aha, see how perfect that is? And I'm going to let it stick out below the canvas just a little bit, just because I think that's cool. Put that there, slide up under there. There we go, my glue held. And what about this last one? Do you think he needs a stem? This is a big flower. Probably needs a kind of a fat piece of stem, or maybe not. Here we go, this piece of this one will work. If I can get it under there. Yeah, that'll work. Just this one little piece, just so it makes sense. Because this flower wouldn't be, now think about where the center of your flower is, wouldn't be floating out in midair. There we go. And we are pretty much finished with this. How cool is this? This center part, if you want, oh, we gotta do leaves. The center part, if you want, we could, you could paint little bits of yellow around the edge. And let me show you, I went ahead and got, let's see, I found another, oh, here it is. Another one of these while I was looking for my sticks. Another piece of, this is a tree that got cut down in the schoolyard. And just all kinds of stuff you can do with these pine cones. And what I did here for the center is I took the very center of this, and before I was smart and got out my diagonal cutters, I was just using my scissors. But I cut that part right off like that, and you get 3 of them. See how it's shaped kind of like a triangle with a rounded edge? You get 3 of them, and you can put them on the inside and make the inside of your flower. So lots of different things you can do. Okay, petals. Okay, get you some big leaves. And I'm going to go ahead and use my scissors rather than these, because not everybody has a set of diagonal cutters. You're going to want to cut from the bottom side and cut your leaf. I'm going to move this over here so it comes to a point like that. Let's make 5 or 6 like that. Cut them off like that. Or if they're not perfect, every leaf is going to be different. Every flower is going to be different. I got 4, I think. Probably, for this small of a composition, probably 3 is going to be enough. Because we don't want to overdo it. And you'll have to get some green craft paint and some yellow. And we've made all kinds of green stuff. We've made, in the classroom, we've made grass. We've made all kinds of green stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and use this palette here, just use this corner, because it doesn't take much. So just a little bit of yellow. My green's gotten really runny, I don't know why. A little bit of green. And that's all we need for that. Okay, we're gonna glue the petals in place before we paint them. Let's see, maybe one there. One coming off of that. And I don't want to put two there. Maybe one clear down here and that one kind of going over the edge of the flower. Yeah, that's kind of cool. It gives us a nice organic look. So this is the bottom of it. A little bit of glue right there, and then stick this right under the stick so it looks like it's growing right off of there. Same thing down here. And then this one here, we'll need to put glue on the top because I'm gluing it to the bottom of that stick because I'm overlaying it over the top of, my pencil will push it up, over the top of that purple flower. Okay. No, it doesn't want to stay. So I'll put some on the bottom also. Put it on the bottom, put it on the top. Stick it back in there. Aha, that did it. Okay, we're firm now. Okay, now painting the sticks, the leaves. I don't want to paint the stems because I like, go back to my sample here, I like the difference in color. Now on this, the limbs, the leaves kind of blend in with the background. On the one I did with purple, I put that dragonfly glaze on there because I think it's so cool. But they stand out a little bit more because this purple background and the green leaves. Okay, my brush. So a little bit of green, a little bit of yellow. And just kind of blop that on there. So we have a variety. Remember, the darker colors are stronger. So it will take more of the lighter colors. I got too much water in my brush. There, that's gonna look better. Kind of brush out. Let's see, make sure you can see it. That's all pretty much the same color, so I'm gonna correct that by daubing a little bits of yellow on the edge of that. And we got one more. Some yellow. Okay. And our leaves are complete. And our projects are complete. If you want to, like I said, this stuff is kind of pricey, but I did want to, in fact, this was $4 something for this little thing. I do want to show you how cool this is. I've got a couple of different colors. Since my background is orange, I want to get one that has, okay, this one goes from yellow through orange to red and barely to violet. So see how it goes through the color wheel? Pretty cool. So I'm going to get my brush nice and clean and show you how fun this is. Okay. I just use it right out. I keep this little thing to keep it sealed. Just use it right out of the container. And just kind of stick it underneath here just to do it on my background. And you don't have to be precise about this at all since it's just kind of a glaze that we're putting over it just for fun. But if you want to put it just on your background, then it'll help make your background fun, and then it'll make it stand out a little bit more from the subject, which is the flowers. See how little of this I'm using? It takes very, very little. And when it dries, ways. It actually has to cure out pretty much overnight before you start seeing the glitter. I mean, it looks shiny here, but you won't see the glitter until all of the medium, which is what looks white here, that will turn clear. Oh boy, I got a lot on my brush that time. That'll do this whole big area. Some here, some here. The only place I got left is right here. Just little tiny bits. There we go, got that all done. Dragonfly glaze, cool stuff. Okay, we are finished with our project now. I hope you enjoyed this. I have loved doing it for you, doing it with you. And if you guys that are enrolled in summer art, if you decide to, let me know when you come back to school. If you want to do this again and do it in art class, maybe we can make something bigger, make a nice gift out of it for Christmas or something. Okay, remember to praise God, stay inspired, and keep making art.